What's going on, guys? Kevin from Epic Gardening here. This is a tutorial on growing Amaranth microgreens, which is probably something that many of you haven't heard of, or if you have, at least you haven't seen it grown in a microgreen, or even if you have seen that, you probably haven't seen red garnet amaranth grown as a microgreen. Probably one of my favorite looking microgreens. Taste is quite mild. It's not unpleasant at all. It's just a mild flavor. It's nothing like a basil or a mustard, but looks striking. Entire plant is a violet, sort of deep blood red, and it's a bit more expensive. So let's go over what we need to get into this. You're obviously going to need some seed. I get mine, as I've mentioned in many videos, from Everwild Seeds, Everwild Farms. Really good company. Really love not only their selection, but price and shipping and all that stuff. So I get red garnet just because I like the way that it looks. You're going to need some water, you're going to need a little seed shaker, and you're going to need some soil. So there's my big old soil bucket. I've gone over it in many videos. I use a 50-50 mix of organic potting soil and coconut coir. So I rehydrate a brick of coconut coir, then I mix in the soil, and the soil is nice and moist. Go ahead and fill up a container with it and pat it level. Don't pat it too hard. You don't want to compact the soil, but you do want a surface that is as level as you can get it. Obviously, it's not 100% uniform, but we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for pretty dang close. So what we'll do now is go ahead and shake these out. Trying to get it as uniform as possible. As you can see, the amaranth seeds are actually really small. Some of the smaller seeds that I've personally planted. So I like to use this just because it offers me a bit more control than using like a glass or my hands or something like that. It's okay if you lose a little bit. On some of the more expensive seeds, you'd probably be a little upset if you lost these, but amaranth, it is actually not that cheap compared to, let's say, an arugula or a radish or something like that, but it's not super expensive. There's much more expensive microgreen seeds out there. Alright, so we've got it nice and distributed. We'll give it a good spray of water. And next step, before you basically ignore it for a few days, aside from misting it here and there, is to cover it up. So I would use something like aluminum foil, which I will cut and place on top of this, and then we'll move on to the next part of this tutorial, so stay tuned. Alright, we're checking in on our red garnet amaranth. It's germinating. Let's get a closer look. It's germinating, but it's not ready to come out from under the dome. And when I say dome, what I mean is I put it in a 10 by 20 propagation tray like you can see here, and then I just cover it with another one. I have a couple other experiments going on in here as well, which is why there's so much space. But yeah, it's not ready to come out. It needs a few more days to get actual sprouts coming up. As you can see, there's some germination. There's some roots popping out of the seed and starting to dig into the soil, try to find some nutrition and water, but there aren't any leaves coming out, or cotyledons, or seed leaves. So what we'll do is mist it once, twice a day lightly, and then we will continue to wait. And I would expect to see some leaves popping out maybe day 4. Again, this is day 2, so stay tuned. Alright, we're back. So this is 2 days, a little bit over 2 days later on the red garnet amaranth, and you can see about 1.5 inches of growth. It's a bit tilted towards one side because I have it out here on this balcony, and it's, it can only be positioned in one direction. Sun's coming in. This is west facing, so it's not amazing, but man, look at that growth. I mean, that's 1.5 inches in a little bit over 36 hours. And you can see what it'll look like as a final product over here. Really beautiful plant. But one mistake that I made with this tray was I actually didn't let it under the blackout dome long enough. So this is a bit leggy, but once it gets the sun going, it's going to thicken up. There's wind out here. It's going to get stronger, and it's going to be really, really cool looking. So we're going to check back in on this in 2 days, and that'll probably be about time to harvest this bad boy. So we'll see you back in 2 days. Here we are, day 6 of red garnet amaranth. Growth has been absolutely incredible. I've grown this in trays before, the 10 by 20 trays, because this is one of the microgreens that I sell. And The first time I did it, I didn't let it get leggy enough. Now, usually when you're growing most seeds, you're starting most seeds, legginess, which is essentially the plant struggling to find light and reaching up further and further, effectively growing a very, very long stem and not putting out a lot of new leaves, is usually not a good thing because that weakens the plant's structure when wind comes along or rain comes along or something like that. It makes it too brittle. But since we're growing to the microgreen stage, it actually doesn't matter at all, and in some cases is preferable because if you get it a bit leggy, you actually have more room to sacrifice some of the stem when you're cutting. And what you want to do is actually sacrifice maybe a 1/4 inch of that stem, first of all because people often don't want a lot of stem in their microgreen. They want it to be relatively short and beautiful. They don't want a really long 4-inch stem and a bit of leaf at the top. That's not very pretty and not very functional. And the second reason is because you want a really clean cut and a really clean harvest. You don't want to waste your time doing a lot of washing. So as long as you don't have mold and as long as you don't have any debris in there, you actually don't need to wash these at all. And that saves a lot of time, and it also saves shelf life. So I'm going to go ahead and give these a cut. I've got a Victorinox paring knife that I like to use right here that just cuts it straight through. Now if I was doing this in a tray, so this is obviously a bit easier to manage because it's just a tiny little cup. What I would be doing is sort of pulling it back and coming in at an angle and slicing just like this, and then taking the bunches off and harvesting that way. Just because we're in a container, I can basically just flip it on its side like this and come down like this and just sort of chop. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit. And instead of coming straight here, right at the soil line, I'm going to move it up about a 1/4 inch and just slowly chop through. And that is exactly what we're going to be looking for the harvest. And then once I get halfway through, I'm going to go ahead and flip sides just to make sure that I have a nice even cut all the way through, because the stems will start to push towards one direction. Alright, so we're about halfway through. Maybe I'll do it from this angle. Important to use a super sharp knife here because otherwise you're going to be pulling roots out, and with pulling roots out you're obviously going to get a lot of soil and debris. Keep on going. This is one of my favorite looking microgreens by far. Easily one of the most beautiful ones you'll probably grow because you have that translucent pink, purple, violet type of color that just pops on the plate, and they actually taste pretty good too. They're not the most flavorful of microgreen, but they don't taste bad in any way. They just sort of taste kind of a bit like a grown grain, I guess. I don't really know how else to put it. So check that out. I mean, a very simple harvest. I left maybe about 1/3 of an inch, 1/2 an inch of stem, but that's fine because what we've got here is a really plentiful harvest. Now, if we were growing in a tray, you'd probably get somewhere around 6 to 9 ounces, depending on how long you grow. But you can see there's really almost no debris whatsoever. Anything that you see down there is an amaranth sprout, right? And what we see here is just beautiful, beautiful greens. Check these out. I mean, these look amazing in a salad. They spice a plate up really nicely, and they taste great too. So chefs love them. I find that a lot of farmers market customers will really be into them. Just for the look, I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying something that is healthy for you and also looks amazing. I think that's part of the joy of cooking for me, at least. And I think that it is for the joy of consuming cool looking dishes is something that we all care about a little bit. So that's all there really is to it. These guys typically take anywhere from 8 to 12 days, depending on how you want to grow them, and provide a pretty nice little harvest. So if you guys like this video, definitely go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There's going to be more videos like this coming, and I rely on you guys to tell me what you want to watch and what questions that you have about either microgreens, hydroponics, gardening in general, permaculture stuff. So definitely drop a comment in and let me know. Like and share this video with your friends, and I can keep this stuff coming because I really enjoy doing these videos for you guys. So thank you for watching. Get some red garnet amaranth seeds, start growing them, and happy gardening, guys. This has been Kevin from Epic Gardening. Take it easy.